I fell in love with someone else's husband. On the 3rd anniversary of our marriage. It was originally an accident. Because the boss needed to be hospitalized, the business trip that was supposed to be handled by the boss was assigned to me. Before leaving, the boss reminded me, this time, the manager of the partners branch will accompany you personally. You got lucky, Mr. Fang is quite a handsome guy. I thought to myself, how handsome can a man who is a provincial company manager be? Just an average-looking middle-aged man. I lifted my eyelids and didn't pay much attention. The boss took a couple of steps and turned back to add, but he's married, and his child is almost a year old. The night before the business trip, I packed my luggage for the next day, lay on the sofa with a face mask on, scrolling through my phone. Chi Chu didn't come home. He texted me before dinner saying he would be with a client tonight, and that I shouldn't wait for him if it got too late. Which client needs to stay overnight? Is he discussing next year's wine acquisition plans with a wine saleswoman from a nightclub until dawn? Or is he chatting with a KTV princess about the current stock prices in the entertainment industry until morning? I turned off my phone, tore off the face mask, and planned to go to sleep. We've been married for almost 3 years, and I no longer care whether he comes home or not. Looking back, everything about my relationship with Chi Chu feels like an accident. There are many wealthy people in this city, and Chi Chu is one of them, and he is also quite good-looking. You might think I am simply after his wealth, but that's not accurate. The money I've earned over the years is not less than Chi Chu's. He just doesn't know it. I rarely befriend rich second-generation individuals, because most of them are spoiled and lack real skills. Once they leave the protection of their families, they often crumble. And Chi Chu was also an accident. He is patient, smart, and composed. His only flaw is that he is very unfaithful, which has never changed. In fact, he treats me well. He gives me everything I want, and when I need him, he cares for me in a timely manner. Aside from all the love, I can get everything else. His lovers come and go quickly, and we maintain a good understanding. I don't ask about his affairs, and he maintains enough dignity for me. All the balance was broken the moment Fang Yu appeared. I was at the train station, struggling with my heavy luggage, when I received a call from Fang Yu, teacher Xiao Shui. He called me, walk to the right. I'm under the mobile phone advertisement at the east gate. Sitting on a black suitcase. I followed his instructions and walked over, seeing a young man in a camel-colored trench coat sitting on a large black suitcase from a distance. He had his head down, with his bangs hanging down to cover his eyebrows, and his straight legs dangled long along the suitcase. He didn't look at me, but instead, one hand was idly scrolling through his phone. I looked around again, and confirmed that there was only one man sitting on the black suitcase under the entire exhibition stand. So it must be him. I recalled the handsome guy my boss had described, and for the first time in my life, I realized that my boss could occasionally tell the truth. At that moment, I suddenly felt alive again, as the dull life and the wayward Chi Chu seemed to drift away from me, the further the better. I composed myself and casually walked over, Mr. Fang. Ah? He looked up at me. His bright eyes fixed directly on my face. The ticket checking hasn't started yet. I see there are too many people over there, so for safety's sake, let's wait here for a while. I agreed. I thought to myself that waiting for a while was certainly no problem as long as I was with the handsome guy. I could wait a lifetime. Until the ticket checking, boarding the train, and as the train slowly started moving, Fang Yu maintained a businesslike attitude and politely chatted with me. Perhaps the long hour-long journey was indeed a bit boring, so we naturally started talking. Since we were about the same age, we gradually became familiar with each other. Fang Yu was not as indifferent as he appeared. He was a lively young man. He spoke seriously, and he could catch every joke I made and accurately throw it back at me. By the time the train was approaching the station, I even had the illusion that we were already friends. After the reception dinner with the partners, we returned to our rooms, and I suddenly received a call from Fang Yu, teacher Qiao. Do you want to go out to buy some water? As I pondered why we had to go out to buy water when the hotel provided free water, I put on my coat and pushed the door open. It was already past 10 at night, and the streets of this small city were deserted. We kicked the scattered leaves along the street, while aimlessly chatting and walking. It felt so good since getting married. I hadn't gone on a date with a young and handsome boy for a long time, if this could be considered a date. From then on, every night after work, we would go out to buy a bottle of water or stroll along the street. This was the first time I wished that the business trip would last a little longer. At the end of the first day of work, we stood by the hotel elevator, and I asked him, "Which elevator do you think will arrive first, the left one or the right one? What will happen if I guess correctly?" "I guess it's the right side." I smiled at him at the door. "If you guess wrong, you owe me a cup of milk tea." "Okay," he said, "then I guess the left one." When the elevator door on the right opened, I smiled at him and walked into the elevator with a sway. It wasn't until we returned to the train station, finishing the first leg of our work, that Fang Yu suddenly called me after coming out of the station's restroom. "There's a milk tea shop here. It's quite amazing that such a small train station has a milk tea shop. Do you want some? If you miss this opportunity, it will be gone." I ordered a cup of milk tea and watched Fang Yu come back from a distance, holding a cup of milk tea and carrying a grilled sausage. "Is the grilled sausage for me too?" I asked him. "What dream are you having?" He took a big bite out of half of it. "I just asked you if you wanted anything else, and you refused so decisively. Now that I see you eating, I want to eat too." I watched the grilled sausage disappear, bite by bite, swallowing my saliva twice in my throat. Fang Yu finished the grilled sausage contentedly, took a sip of water, and said, "Then you wait for me to go to the bathroom next time." I held the bottle of mineral water and tried to pour it into his mouth, saying, "Mr. Fang, drink more." Fang Yu smiled and stood up again to walk away, returning with a second grilled sausage in his hand. This train is a through train, and unfortunately, our seats are one in the first carriage and one in the last carriage. We communicated across the Yarlung Zangpo River using WeChat, messaging from the queue until the train started moving. The amount of conversation I had with Fang Yu in a week was more than what I had said to Chi-Chu in a year. It turns out that marriage does not make two people closer, instead, they become more estranged. As the train was approaching the station, he said his phone was out of battery from chatting with me, sending a screenshot showing 3. I sent a voice message, and he hung up. I called again, and he hung up again. On the third time, he could no longer bear it and answered the phone. I heard him laughing and questioning me, "Why are you so mean?" When the train arrived, it was during the peak of the pandemic, and the quarantine personnel had to check each passenger one by one before they could disembark. Fang Yu got off the train long before me, and I received his message, "I've been waiting for you so long that my legs are shaking. When will you come out?" "It will be a while, it's not my turn yet," I said. "If you're too cold, you can go back first. After all, we don't have much of an emotional foundation, and I would feel guilty dragging you down." "You're right," he replied. "Then I'll leave first, Teacher Chiao." It wasn't until I walked out of the station that Fang Yu's phone rang again. "Look to the left." I looked to the left and saw a young man in a camel-colored trench coat sitting on a black suitcase, with a long wire extending from one of his pockets connected to the end of his phone. He pulled out a power bank from his pocket and smiled, waving at me. Then he stood up and walked over to me. "See you next week, Teacher Chiao." The second week we met again at the train station. I was sitting in KFC waiting for him, and Fang Yu ordered a juice to take on the train. This journey was long, about 3 hours, and I was already thirsty before we had even reached halfway. I watched Fang Yu take a sip of his chilled juice, and secretly regretted rejecting him again, when I placed my order earlier. "Are you thirsty?" he asked me. I nodded. He lifted the plastic lid of the juice cup and handed me the juice he had taken a sip from, saying, "There's no extra straw. So just drink it like this." I took a sip and then returned it to him. Fang Yu casually reinserted the straw and continued drinking. At that moment, I realized we had crossed a certain gray boundary, and we were moving further away from it. Since then, it seems that having a drink together has become a trivial matter. I wanted to invite him to have ice cream, but he said his stomach hurt. However, when he saw me eating, he couldn't help but pick up a spoon and taste a bite of the ice cream in my hand, and he gently wiped away a small piece of cream that had fallen on my leg. When work was over, I didn't want to take a car back to the hotel, so I pulled him along to walk back. We rushed into a lottery shop and each bought a ticket symbolizing wealth, then bought a pork sandwich to share on the way back. One night, I went downstairs to buy medicine and brought up 2 bottles of water to give to him. When I got upstairs, I found Fang Yu standing at my room door. Turning to me and saying, "I saw a milk tea shop downstairs, didn't you want to drink milk tea?" We sat face to face in the milk tea shop. He said he was allergic to milk and did nothing else but watch me drink. If he weren't married, and if I weren't married either, I would even think we were a pair of soulmates. But the reality soberly reminded me that there was a woman named Baby in his phone and a man named Husband in mine. We tacitly forgot about this matter, pretending that nothing had happened between us. Like a derailed train, we sped forward in a direction without purpose. No one knew what awaited us ahead, yet no one wanted to stop. After leaving the milk tea shop, we stood at the door of 2 adjacent rooms. I took out my room card and heard him ask me, "Chat for a while? Or should we just go back to sleep?" This was his first invitation to me. Should I accept? By some strange twist of fate, I said, "Okay. Go to your room, or come to my room." There was no hint of hesitation in his tone, as if this was something that was meant to happen. "Let's go to your room," I said. I entered the adjacent room, which was completely opposite in layout to mine, and sat properly on the sofa. Fang Yu casually turned on the TV to watch an old movie with me. Halfway through the movie, I noticed that his room had no heating on. "Why is it so cold? Don't you turn on the heating?" "I feel hot," he casually replied. "If you're cold, you can warm up under the blanket." This was a standard room with 2 single beds. Fang Yu sat on the bed near the door, and I could only lift the blanket on the other bed and lie down. I had observed that this bed showed no signs of having been used. Fang Yu's coat was draped over the side, indicating he was used to sleeping in the bed he was currently lying on. I covered my legs with the blanket and quietly finished watching the rest of the movie. I lifted the blanket, put on my shoes, and said goodbye to him before returning to my own room. After that day, Fang Yu and his baby talked less and less. Sometimes, when he saw me coming, he would hurriedly hang up the phone. I found this behavior somewhat amusing. Look, have I ever called Chi-Chu? And look how calm Chi-Chu is, he can't even be bothered to lie to me. When the second stop ended, we had to catch a flight. After passing through security, I hurriedly packed my things at the security checkpoint. Fang Yu stood by patiently reminding me, "Don't rush. Last time, you left your computer at the security checkpoint, which delayed the flight. Have you forgotten?" As he spoke, he helped me carry my luggage to a nearby bench, gently saying, "Check again to see if you've left anything behind." Fang Yu is actually a year younger than me. Aside from our childish banter, he often displays a maturity and tolerance that far exceed mine. At any moment, he is willing to accommodate me, to the point where I feel we have an extraordinary tacit understanding. For example, one day, after dinner, we planned to walk back to the hotel, but the distance was too long. We both suggested we wanted to use the restroom at the same time, and we ran down the street for quite a while before finding a public toilet. We rushed in, and after a while, we ran out, standing on the street laughing at each other. For instance, one night, I was lying on the other bed in Fang Yu's room scrolling through my phone, when he suddenly walked into the bathroom. The hotel bathroom has transparent glass windows, allowing a clear view of all the facilities from the room. He didn't close the curtain, and when I heard the sound of his belt unbuckling, I turned bright red and immediately turned my head towards the window, burying my face in the sheets and covering my ears tightly with both hands. When Fang Yu came out of the bathroom, he tapped my calf with his toes and asked, "Tell me, did you peek while I was in the bathroom?" I said no. He laughed and called me a little pervert. I replied, "You're the pervert, you didn't close the curtain." He nudged my calf again with his toes, teasing, still saying, "You didn't peek." For example, yesterday after work, Fang Yu made plans to have dinner with local friends and asked if I wanted to join. I thought about it and declined. That night, he didn't return to the hotel, but went to a villa with his friends for the night. During the night, he boasted to me about the villa having a big soft bed and a swimming pool while asking if I had eaten properly. I deliberately said no. He offered to order takeout for me, asking what I wanted. I could hear his guilt and simply said it was too late. And I had already gone to bed. He thought for a moment and said, "Okay, tomorrow morning at the airport, I'll buy you whatever you want." For instance, at this moment, we are sitting on the plane, chatting casually, when Fang Yu suddenly said seriously, "Xiao Shui, did you know that before I met you, I always thought I was the most talkative person in the world? So after meeting me, you lost, right?" I lost. After he finished speaking, he pointed to the announcement coming from the intercom. They told me to take care of my child and not let her run around. After saying that, he rubbed my head with his finger. "They're talking about you." "Okay, Daddy," I replied with a smile and then sat up straight. I didn't look at him, but I heard him laugh. After the plane took off, he handed me his phone and said, "You can see where our plane is flying by placing the screen on the window." "So amazing," I exclaimed in surprise, pressing his phone against the window. "Where is it?" "I can't see it." Fang Yu's finger reached over, swiping on the screen and pointing to the plane's current location. As he spoke, his body leaned closer, gently brushing against my back. His breath, faintly falling on my ear, was a youthful scent completely different from Chi-Chu's. I didn't hear what he said at all. I only saw his finger tapping against my fingertips, like a lighter that wouldn't ignite. When Fang Yu drove me home, I sat in the passenger seat, eating the fresh fries we bought at the airport. He was anxiously driving while mumbling about needing to hurry home to see his son. I shoved the fries towards his mouth, and he swallowed them without hesitation. Did his son know that his dad was currently eating fries fed to him by another woman? His dad even let that woman drink his cola, the same cup of cola, half drunk by that woman and the other half by his dad. I suddenly understood Chi-Chu's joy, a secret, unspeakable joy. Carrying a destructive power, belonging only to the wicked and the competition between the wicked. Fang Yu was the next Chi-Chu, and I was about to become one too. When we got out of the car, Fang Yu helped me take my luggage out of the trunk. "See you next week, Teacher Chiao." He opened his arms. "Aren't you going to give me a hug?" I walked over and was embraced by him. The trench coat he wore had a weary scent, no longer the refreshing youthful aura from the first day we met, but a uniquely masculine scent filled with possessiveness. Compared to the fragrance on a man, this overwhelming, irresistible masculine scent was enough to engulf me in an instant. After this moment, the last carriage of the train completely derailed. After getting home, I turned on the room light, and saw 2 pairs of neatly placed slippers lying side by side in the shoe cabinet. The slippers were still in the position I left them, which probably meant that Chi-Chu hadn't come home for a week. I walked around the room completely apart from the lingering scent of my perfume. Before I left, in this large house, I could hardly smell Chi-Chu's presence. I recalled Fang Yu's vibrant scent from earlier, and leaned my cheek against the shirt hanging in the wardrobe belonging to Chi-Chu, smelling the residual fragrance of laundry detergent, sweet yet unfamiliar. I didn't know what magic this scent held, but as I inhaled, it unexpectedly brought tears to my eyes. I couldn't help but take out my phone and call Chi-Chu. Hearing his voice, my breath, which I had just managed to steady, became chaotic again. With a slight choke, I softly asked him, "Honey, where are you?" Chi-Chu seemed surprised that I suddenly called him. He paused for a moment and quickly explained, "I'm on a business trip." "What's wrong, baby?" "I miss you." After saying this, we fell silent for a long time. Time and distance pulled us further apart, far enough that we could hear each other's voices, but didn't know what to say. The only sound in the receiver was the rhythm of our breaths. I didn't know what he was thinking, and I guessed he didn't know what I was thinking either. I couldn't remember how long it had been when I calmly smiled. "It's okay, dear," I said. "Have a good business trip." "Okay." He just agreed and then said, "Good night, baby." Until the afternoon of the next day, Chi-Chu still hadn't returned. Fang Yu drove me to the airport. This was our third meeting. We cuddled together at the airport waiting to board, and he said he had a headache, playfully saying that he would be so happy if someone could help him massage it right now. I curled my finger, and he leaned his head over, resting on my shoulder, allowing me to massage his scalp again and again. As long as we met during the day, we kept talking. At night, when we returned to the room, WeChat messages could go on until midnight. The only time in my life I experienced endless joy from work came from my boss's timely prostate surgery. That day, we finished work early, and Fang Yu and I wandered around the streets. It was strange, every moment we spent together felt incredibly comfortable and happy, and even the smallest things could bring us joy for half a day. Even 3 weeks of high-intensity work passed by us lightly. All of this was predicated on the guilt in my heart that was about to disappear, and Fang Yu's complete avoidance of mentioning his wife and son. For a moment, I even thought, if we had met a few years earlier, if he didn't know his baby, and if I hadn't sent that one to Chi-Chu, would everything have been different? At 3 in the afternoon, we carried a bunch of snacks and walked back to the hotel with full bellies. Holding my ice cream, I casually asked him, "Do you want some?" He said his stomach still hurt. I said, "All right, I'll finish this in front of you and then go back to sleep." I was just mentioning it casually, but I didn't expect Fang Yu to suddenly call out to me at the door, "Didn't you say you'd finish it before going back?" I held the room card in my hand, feeling extremely sleepy. I put the card back in my pocket and followed him into the room. As before, I kicked off my shoes and snuggled on the sofa eating ice cream. Fang Yu, as usual, would come over to share a bite after each refusal. His room still had no heating, and I grew colder as I ate, shivering and calling for him to turn on the heat. He laughed as he burrowed into the blanket, scaring me, "If you're cold, you can warm up under the blanket for a while anyway. I would rather die than go turn on the heating." This time his room is a large bedroom, which, as the name suggests, only has a bed. He lies on the left side of the bed, raising an eyebrow to provoke me. I am not wearing shoes and walk all the way to the edge of the bed, standing there next to it. "Do you think I dare not?" He raised his eyebrow again. I pulled back the quilt and lay down, lying on the right side of the bed half a meter away from him, continuing to finish the remaining ice cream. "You little girl have quite a bit of courage." He laughed and turned to lie down. "If you have the ability, just sleep here." Sleep if I want to. The word I fear the least in my life is sleep, not to mention that it's uncertain who will sleep with whom. I also turned over and covered my chin with the quilt. I was really too sleepy, my originally awake consciousness gradually blurred, and I actually fell asleep. When I opened my eyes again, it was already past 5 in the afternoon. I reached for my phone to check the time and realized that I had a dinner meeting with clients in the evening, and after the dinner, we had to catch a flight back. All of this meant that Fang Yu and I were about to disappear in 2 different directions in the city. I put down my phone and turned my head to find Fang Yu's face less than 5 centimeters above my cheek, looking at my eyes seriously, with a hint of cunning and playfulness, smiling. "Why didn't you leave?" he asked knowingly. I was taken aback for a moment, recalling what had happened 2 hours ago, and then quickly changed to a serious expression to answer him. "It was you who held my arm and wouldn't let me go." He smiled. "How did you hold me? Show me how you did it." I angrily threw off the blanket and stood up, only to be pulled back onto the bed by Fang Yu. With that familiar expression that pierced through my heart, he said, "Is this how you hug?" After saying that, he lowered his face, getting even closer to me. "Did I also kiss you?" His kiss gently landed on my blinking eyelid. "Is this how you kiss?" I stared directly into his eyes, clearly hearing a string in my mind snap with a loud crash. It was all too late. "Fang Yu, I think you're quite a jerk." I lay quietly on the bed, looking at his face so close to mine, soon to be even closer. His kiss lingered by my lips, and I heard his smiling voice, "Xiao Shui, I think you're quite a jerk too." We both saw each other's smiles, and in that moment, we knew we were doomed. We stood at the edge of a cliff, exchanged a glance, and then embraced each other, jumping off recklessly, just to indulge in the most extreme pleasure of the world, even if the flames below the cliff would shatter us. For this moment, we cared about nothing else. When his fingers stopped at the second button of my shirt, suddenly, I felt something was off. I turned and pushed Fang Yu away, rushing into the bathroom. The moment I took off my pants, I realized this time it was really over. Is there anything more thrilling than cheating? Yes. It was the moment I was fully prepared to face the mark of an adulterer on my face, only to find out that I had gotten my period. I squatted on the toilet in despair, shouting Fang Yu's name, and heard a low hey from the room just a wall away. I asked if he could help me go downstairs to buy a sanitary pad. He didn't answer me. I heard the room door open and close again, leaving me alone, squatting on the cold toilet, suffering. The sound of the exhaust fan buzzed through the entire room, and my head was in a mess. 5 minutes later, the room door opened again, and a hand reached through the frosted glass door of the bathroom, placing a pack of pink sanitary pads in my palm. When I walked out of the bathroom, I was filled with despair. Instead of worrying about my own husband, I was worried about someone else's husband. Would Fang Yu believe that I wasn't backing out at the last minute? Would he stop talking to me from now on? Would he return to the formal tone he had when we first met, politely calling me Teacher Chiao? I thought sadly, if he ignores me, so be it. After today, we would be strangers. In just 30 seconds, I had already made up my mind. If Fang Yu got angry, I would act as if nothing had ever happened. He was the manager of a branch company, and I was just a colleague. After this leg of the journey, we would no longer be in contact. I walked towards him anxiously, and saw Fang Yu turn around, handing me a cup of freshly brewed brown sugar water, and angrily pinching my nose. You're on your period and still eating ice cream. Are you trying to kill yourself? I stood frozen in place, desperately trying to wave away the 5 words, someone else's husband, from my mind, and I tiptoed to leave a kiss on his slightly pouted lips. That was the day of my 3rd anniversary with Chi Chu. When I came out of the hotel, I opened my phone and saw 36 consecutive transfers of 5,200. I put away my phone, feeling not a shred of guilt. That night, we had dinner with clients as usual. During the meal, Fang Yu received a phone call and then remained gloomy. I guessed it might be work-related. With the year-end approaching, he was under a lot of pressure. However, the afternoon that had just passed kept swirling in my mind, and I couldn't help but pay attention. When we were checking out, we stood together at the front desk while the client was outside on the phone, not noticing us. I quietly asked him, "What's wrong? Why are you so unhappy?" He lowered his head, gently rubbed my hair, and comforted me, saying, "It's not about you, it's work-related." I responded with an "oh," and didn't say anything more. He looked at my expression and leaned closer to ask me, "Is it that when someone else is angry, you feel it's your fault? It seems you weren't loved as a child." I looked up at him in surprise and asked, "How do you know?" He said, "Because I am too." We looked at each other and smiled. He lowered his head again, this time closer to my ear. "But when I'm with you, I'm quite happy." I smiled but didn't speak, because I believed he was telling the truth. This was supposed to be a day of farewell, but it became our beginning. We lived a secretive life, understanding each other without words. Sometimes, when things got busy, Fang Yu would even have me wait for him in his office. His boldness and calmness dispelled my last shred of concern. Until one day, Chi Chu found a torn square piece of aluminum foil in my car. He didn't say anything, just glanced at me with a smile, then calmly got out of the car. The journey from the garage to the living room was the most tense moment I had experienced in the past 3 years. But sooner or later, there would be such a day. Chi Chu didn't even know that I had deliberately placed that aluminum foil there. I don't know what I'm afraid of, but I know what I'm not afraid of. Divorce. I had the idea of divorce the first time I found out that Chi Chu was in bed with another woman. At that time, I did nothing, not even having a big fight with him to make him promise there wouldn't be a next time. I just quietly transferred the money I had saved to my parents, just like before. My mom used that money to start her own company, and now she earns more, enough for us to live comfortably for the rest of our lives. For so many years, I have had no property under my name. If Chi-Chu wants a divorce, aside from a meager income from a job that hides the truth, I will have nothing. If I'm lucky, I might get a share of his money. Is this how I should live? Then I'm even less worried. Neither Fang Yu nor I would divorce for each other. I even hope he doesn't divorce. If one day Fang Yu doesn't like me anymore, that's fine, there will always be another Fang Yu. We are countless men and women who feel lonely after marriage, and we will eventually meet in the vast sea of people. From now on, Chi-Chu and I will not interfere with each other and will be happy. Chi-Chu didn't love me before, and he won't love me in the future. But that doesn't matter. Does Fang Yu love his wife? Obviously not. I stand in the empty villa, watching Chi-Chu move between the living room and the kitchen, as if nothing has happened. He is making dinner for me. This is the first time this year he has cooked for me. I don't know what he is thinking clearly. I am the one who made a mistake this time, and I am also the one who feels justified. We sit quietly at the dining table, chatting tacitly, as if we have always been this loving couple over the past 3 years. That night, Chi-Chu didn't touch his phone, unusually quiet, staying by my side. We watched a variety show, ate a plate of fruit and a pudding, took a shower, and went to bed. In a nearly 2-meter big bed, we lay back to back under the covers. He turned over and kissed my cheek, smiling as he said, "Wife, good night, I love you." I nodded and replied to him sincerely, "I love you too, husband." As Chi-Chu's steady breathing sounds in my ears, I recall the years I have spent with him, as if it were a dream. We met at a friend's gathering that night. I was originally there to discuss business with a friend. The friend is a girl who runs her own brand, and has a sizable company. We were planning to collaborate on a series of projects. After the business discussion, my friend casually took me to a dinner party, which had only 4 people, me, my friend, Chi-Chu, and his assistant. They seemed to be quite familiar with each other, and during the meal, my friend kept teasing Chi-Chu about having dated almost all the beautiful girls in the city. I glanced at him with a smile, and he casually looked at me. A charmingly rogue boy. Perhaps throughout the dinner, my friend took good care of me. After dinner, she asked Chi-Chu to drive me home, and he politely agreed. His assistant went to drive, and I opened the back door. It was too dark, and I caught a glimpse of a Crown logo on the edge of the door. I don't know much about cars, so I thought this might be a domestic car. We didn't talk much on the way. I listened to him explain the details of the work for the next day to his assistant, quietly looking out the window. Just before the journey ended, he suddenly turned to chat with me, casually talking for a moment before asking for my WeChat. After that, we didn't contact each other again, until one day when I was cleaning up my WeChat friends and found that he had no moments. After adding him as a friend, I hadn't looked at his WeChat at all. But isn't the underlying message of not being able to see someone's moments that you've been deleted? I felt a surge of anger, and wanted to delete him directly. But at the moment I was about to do it, I hesitated and tentatively sent a 1 instead. Not a question mark, or a dot, but a 1. When the message was successfully sent, I regretted it. There was no red exclamation mark, just my embarrassment. Almost immediately, he replied to me with a question mark. I didn't have time to think of the right words for my slip of the hand, so I had to be honest. I was just cleaning up my friends and thought you had deleted me, so I tried it out. To cover up my embarrassment, I also sent a very dramatic meme. He sent a string of ha 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 characters, along with a message, "You can't see my moments, can you?" I want to say, knowing it, why ask? What a pointless question. He sent another message, "Fortunately, you didn't delete me in a fit of anger, or I would be the one crying." Since then, Chi-Chu has been chatting with me almost every night. After 11 o'clock and before 12. His messages always come in. Before 1 o'clock in the morning, he quietly ends the conversation. One day, I couldn't take it anymore and said to him, "From now on, whoever disappears first has to send a 10 yuan red envelope before speaking next time." Within a month, I want to make you bankrupt." He smiled and agreed, "Okay." But the amazing thing is that since that day, he has persistently chatted until I surrendered every time, and the next day he would always say, "You disappeared again." I had to send red envelopes with tears in my eyes according to the rules I set for myself, and in less than a week, I lost several hundred. Rich people are unwilling to give up even 10 yuan thinking about this kind of perseverance. I know why I am a poor loser. It was during our second meeting that I confirmed he was a wealthy man. He personally drove to pick me up. It was during the day, and I sat in the passenger seat. The weather was too cold, and he helped me turn on the seat heater. I caught a glimpse of the emblem on the steering wheel, which was a trident. Chi-Chu is an extremely patient person, which I find astonishing. At first, I thought he was just keeping me in a fish pond, teasing me whenever he felt like it. However, 2 months passed, and his enthusiasm only grew stronger. Later, I thought he just wanted to sleep with me, but 3 months went by, and he didn't even mention it. He seems to be addicted to the long game of capturing, showing no interest in short-term instant gratification. He is patient, but I am even more patient than he is. If he doesn't speak, I will never say a word. He doesn't lack girls, and similarly, I don't lack boys. Until New Year's Eve, we drank at 2 different occasions. Around 2 in the morning, he said he was drunk and needed to take a taxi home. I asked him where he was, and I could take a taxi to drop him off. He said it was too late, and it would be dangerous. I said if I didn't pick you up, you weren't allowed to go home. He said okay, I'll wait for you. When I came out of the KTV, my phone kept buzzing with messages from another boy, a beautiful 20-year-old. I ignored him, and he simply called. I blocked his number and called a taxi to pick up Chi-Chu at the door. When the car stopped at the door, I heard Chi-Chu greeting his friends. "My girlfriend is here to pick me up," I heard him say. After getting in the car, he asked the driver to take me home first, then leaned his face close to my ear and whispered, "Did you hear what I just said?" "What did you say?" "I didn't hear," I pretended to be clueless. I said. His voice, accompanied by a faint scent of alcohol, sprayed into my ear, "My girlfriend is here to pick me up." "Oh?" I pretended to be angry and said, "Where is she?" "I'll take you there." His face was close to my right cheek. I caught a glimpse of him blinking, grinning as he carefully examined my calm face. Then he chuckled softly and sat back. I looked out the window at the passing night scenery, wondering in my heart if he would come home with me tonight. To be honest, from the moment I met Chi-Chu, I knew I was at most a plaything. There are many boys like him. He was just one I happened to meet. But he set up a game, and I placed my bets alongside him, the stakes piling up, and my bets getting bigger. If I wanted to recover some costs, I had to get something in return. I spent 4 months playing a game of who has more patience with him. He cared about winning or losing, while I only cared about the returns. In any case, tonight I wanted to sleep with him. That was my only goal. He looked good, even very good. He was quite flirtatious, but had a cold and indifferent face. Besides that, he was also very wealthy. But I was clear-headed enough to know he wouldn't share a penny with me. So from the beginning, my goal was very simple. As long as I succeeded, he would become just another past that didn't even count as a boyfriend, like the countless boys blocked in my phone. I felt Chi-Chu lightly tapping my pinky finger with his finger, as if he was calling me. I turned to look at him, and a kiss landed on my lips. Just a gentle touch, and he returned to his place, smiling at me. I was taken aback for a moment, then realized I had been teased by him, and I angrily turned my head towards the window. Chi-Chu tapped my arm with the back of his hand. I ignored him. He tapped again, and I turned to him and whispered, "What?" The second word had not yet been finished when another kiss landed on my lips. Just like before. It was a gentle touch that returned to its original place. I was kissed by him and couldn't help but let a little laughter escape from the corners of my mouth. I didn't want him to see his success, so I turned my face away again. This time, no matter how he touched me, I did not turn back. When the car stopped downstairs, I opened the car door and got out without hesitation, ignoring him and not looking back. I wanted him to get out of the car with me, but the more I thought that way, the less I could show any signs of weakness. My steps did not linger, as I walked around the back of the car, and stepped into the entrance of the underground parking lot. "Hey." He rested his chin on the car window frame, whining and acting spoiled. "I brought you home, and you just walked away like this." Everything seemed to follow a natural course. I stood on the carpet at the door, my shoes only half off, when Chi-Chu pressed me against the door. His face leaned in, sniffing my face like he was smelling a small animal, a wave of dissipating alcohol breath washing over my face. "Were you waiting for me to kiss you?" His lips stopped on my right cheek. "Kiss here." He moved to the corner of my mouth, "Or here." My back was pressed tightly against the cold security door, my lips less than a centimeter from his. I counted 3 seconds in my heart, wanting to say, "If you don't kiss me, I'll kiss you instead," but he suddenly bent down and picked up my right hand, placing a kiss on the back of it. "Let's kiss here instead." Then, he did not straighten up, but gently peeled off my half-removed boot with his hand, and suddenly stood up, scooping me up and carrying me to the sofa. After that day, we started dating and then naturally got married. I never understood why Chi-Chu chose me until after we got married, when Chi-Chu cheated on me time and again. I realized it was because I was the girl who seemed to understand him the most. I secretly turned to take a glance at Chi-Chu's sleeping profile. This handsome yet ruthless man took 3 years to teach me the true meaning of marriage. Now, I have learned everything I needed to learn, even how to be worse and more ruthless than him. If he wants to leave, I will never hold him back. In the middle of the night, Chi-Chu suddenly turned towards me, still heavy with sleep. In my hazy state, I felt him wrap his arms around me, holding me tightly like he did when we first got married. I thought I was dreaming, but when I got out of bed in the morning, I was still lying in his embrace. With the same smile as last night, he kissed my cheek and said, "Wife, you're awake." For several days in a row, Chi-Chu came home every night, said goodnight to me before bed, and kissed my face when he got up. I also pretended to be a virtuous wife, exchanging "I love you" with him in the garage. Then hugging his waist. The 2 cars drove out of the garage, heading towards opposite ends of the city. For almost a week, Chi-Chu maintained the appearance of a good husband. I didn't know what he was planning and didn't intend to poke through it. I kept my usual patience, waiting for his next move. On the weekend, I took the opportunity to meet Fang Yu. During our brief encounter, we didn't mention any family-related topics. We hurriedly met and then hurried back to our respective families. I deliberately had Fang Yu drive me home, and I got out of the car at the entrance of the community while he drove away. I pushed open the door and saw Chi-Chu sitting on the sofa in the living room waiting for me. He extinguished a cigarette and smiled at me. "Wife, you're finally back. I'm taking you somewhere." Chi-Chu pulled me into a private room at a nightclub, instructing the manager to bring in a group of young men. Each one handsome and youthful. Chi-Chu casually pointed and asked with a smile, "Which one do you like?" "Pick one." I pretended to be calm, lifting my chin to glance at Chi-Chu. He still wore that half-smiling expression. Over the years, I had never seen him look nervous. Meanwhile, I was becoming more mature enough to take everything in stride. The days spent with Fang Yu were the times when we were most like children. If being with Chi-Chu was a competition, then being with Fang Yu was a wild adventure. I smiled and nodded, casually pointing to the third boy on the left, "Let's go with him." He had a face as rebellious as Chi-Chu's, but being younger, he still retained a youthful innocence. In that moment, as I chose him, I suddenly realized that all these years, I had been longing to conquer Chi-Chu. The boy was well behaved. He sat down, without any restless movements, and poured me a drink in a very proper manner. I asked him how old he was and where he was from. He said he was 20 this year and from Harbin. I said it was a coincidence, as I had studied in northeast China before. He just smiled shyly, and it was clear he was new to this industry. During our playful banter, Chi-Chu instructed the manager to bring in 2 girls, 1 sweet and 1 spicy. I thought to myself, when did Chi-Chu change his taste? In fact, he didn't like sweet or spicy girls, he liked girls like me, who seemed proud, but had no boundaries. In that sense, Chi-Chu and I were essentially the same kind of people. We appeared obedient on the surface, but wanted to control everything inside. The sweet girl started dancing to the music in the private room, getting more and more excited. I was chatting and laughing with the boy named Nuan Nuan, and I touched his cheek, saying, "You shouldn't be called Nuan Nuan. You should be called Ling Ling." He smiled and suddenly leaned over to kiss my cheek. He said, "Sister, I really like you." In my peripheral vision, I saw Chi-Chu tightly wrapping his arms around the spicy girl's slender waist, while she was feeding him watermelon. Chi-Chu's hand went over her waist and pinched her thigh. At midnight, the private room started playing dice. Chi-Chu and I lost and had to drink, while the remaining 3 had to dance. I couldn't bear to let Nuan Nuan dance, so I only made him drink for losing. Sweet sister coquettishly asked me, "Sister, why are you so heartbroken for Nuan Nuan?" "I'm so jealous." I playfully beckoned sweet sister with my finger, tilting my head and blinking, saying, "Then come here, I feel sorry for you too." At 1 o'clock in the morning, Chi-Chu suddenly patted the faces of the 2 younger sisters, stood up, and said, "Let's call it a night. I need to go home with my wife." After saying that, regardless of the surprised looks from the 3 people, he took my hand from the crowd and led me home. As soon as we entered, Chi-Chu turned and pressed against me, making no move, just standing in front of me, his gaze softly resting on my face. "Did you have fun tonight?" he asked me with a smile. "Not bad," I said, reaching out to pat his cheek like he did. "That boy looks a lot like you, but is much better behaved." After saying that, I walked around him to the kitchen to get some water. Chi-Chu leaned over from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder, his voice soft and sweet as he whined, "Sister likes this, huh?" I slightly turned my head and saw Chi-Chu pouting, looking at me with a face full of grievance, and he asked, "Then does sister like me?" I lightly covered my lips with my finger and chuckled, blinking at him, "You should dance for sister." I reached out and gently patted his little belly. "If sister is happy, there will be a reward." Chi-Chu couldn't hold back, a hint of barely visible disdain escaping from the corner of his lips, followed by the sudden disappearance of his flattery. He lifted me by the waist and tossed me onto the bed, then leaned over, supporting himself on either side of me. "Did you fall hard?" he asked knowingly. "Let me give you a kiss." He picked up my right hand and gently kissed the pulse that was beating softly at my wrist. His kiss was light and slow, gradually moving from my wrist to my arm. He let go of my right hand and leaned down to kiss my earlobe, asking softly as he kissed, "Who is that man?" Finally unable to hold back, I smiled inwardly and casually replied, "It doesn't matter, just an ordinary person." He raised his head, looked at my face, and asked again, "Is he better than me?" I raised my index finger and gently traced the outline of his cheek, teasingly saying, "Which of the beauties around you is better than me?" "None." He shook his head and finally pressed his kiss against my lips. He said, "They only like money, but you are truly seductive." When his kiss landed on my collarbone, I smiled and replied, "I'll take that as a compliment." That night, we didn't part. He locked my body from behind, whispering above my head, "Baby." His voice was hoarse and raspy, "Can we not make a fuss?" Hearing this, I felt that Chi-Chu was still too naive. After all these years, he still didn't truly understand me. If I wanted to leave, I would never give him a chance to keep me. I have done many wrong things in my life, but I have never regretted them. Everything I could lose is what I didn't want. I smiled gently and replied, "Chi-Chu, I can do it." "Can you?" He thought for a moment and said, "Let's give it a try." I let out a cold laugh. "Do you think I would still believe you?" He suddenly leaned over to look at my face and said seriously, "Xiao Shui. If today you say that you don't love me anymore and want to leave me, I will never keep you." He gazed at my face in the dark and after a while, he quietly asked, "You say it?" I bit my lip lightly, but couldn't make a sound. I knew there was something flowing down from my eyes, all the way to the green pillowcase and the white pillow core. I couldn't say it out loud, I knew. Because I was almost there, just a little bit away from not loving him anymore. Chi-Chu wiped the tears from my cheeks with his fingers, brushing my bangs up, exposing my forehead to the cold night air. He leaned close to my ear, his voice coming from the direction of the pillow. Xiao Shui, I don't want to bow to you because you said you don't like men who bow. Once someone bows to you, you won't like him anymore. His voice carried the mist of the night. You think I don't love you, but do you love me? If you really loved me, you wouldn't be so indifferent to me. Don't you think we are very similar? I suddenly laughed. You want to control me, and I want to control you, but in the end, we both get hurt. The air suddenly became quiet, so quiet that I seemed to have fallen asleep. Chi-Chu was still lying on me, and after a long time, I heard a voice. Let's try it once, okay? When I left on Monday, Chi-Chu did not kiss me goodbye as usual. I walked into the garage alone and saw Chi-Chu standing in front of his car in a black suit, elegant and gentlemanly, slightly bowing to me. Miss Chiao, hello, I am your driver, my name is Chi-Chu. He opened the back door of the car, and politely invited me to get in. I stood in the morning light, curiously observing Chi-Chu, suddenly feeling that this man, no matter when I looked at him, had an undeniable beauty. I cooperated with Chi-Chu's boring prank, leisurely sitting in the back seat while he drove me to work. When the car stopped downstairs at the company, Chi-Chu still politely opened the car door for me. Slightly bowing his head to say goodbye, Miss Chiao, I will pick you up after work. That afternoon, I received a call from an unknown number. It was a woman's voice. Hello, I am Fang Yu's wife, and I would like to talk to you. I listened to the voice on the other end of the phone, which was trying to sound calm after crying. I calmly said to her, no need to talk, just tell me directly what you need. She was clearly taken aback for a moment, hesitating to say, I hope you won't contact them again. Okay. After saying this word, I decisively hung up the phone. I kept my promise and deleted all of Fang Yu's contact information within a minute. When I went downstairs, Chi-Chu was indeed waiting for me at the bottom. I got into the car and heard him ask, Miss Chiao, are you going home? Not going back. I thought for a moment and said, let's go to the beach. After a 2-hour drive, we parked the car in the seaside parking lot. I asked Chi-Chu, can you ride a motorcycle? He said he would. I had him rent a motorcycle nearby, and I sat on the back seat, holding his masculine waist filled with hormones, letting him speed along the seaside boulevard. My mind became clearer, with the wind blowing through it. I knew very well that Fang Yu would not divorce for me. Even so, their marriage had already developed cracks, and I had 1,000 ways to make him divorce, but I didn't want to do that. Even if Fang Yu and I broke through all obstacles to be together, there was still a child between them, a child who would always be their bond. If Fang Yu left his wife for me, one day he would also leave me for another woman. He was just another Chi-Chu. I believe in the cycle of cause and effect. Retribution will eventually come to me. I still have a bit of selfishness. I know that Fang Yu is not an utterly wicked man. I don't care how others view me. But I can't bear for Fang Yu to bear the blame of abandoning his wife because of me. From the very beginning, Fang Yu and I were destined to be a regret, and I don't want this regret to be covered in dust. Let's end it here. Locking each other in memories is our only conclusion. I pressed my cheek against Chi-Chu's thin back, feeling his cold and stubborn breath. He wouldn't bow his head to me, but he still did. He knows that what I like is his unwillingness to give up, and his reluctance to leave. We are both gamblers, who only enjoy risky and thrilling games. The wind by the sea howled, messing up my hair, and I heard Chi-Chu loudly asking me ahead, Xiao Shui, are you happy? The wind quickly blew his words away, and I couldn't hear clearly, so I shouted back, what did you say? He asked again, are you happy? I burst into laughter, leaned close to his ear, and shouted excitedly, to be honest, I think I'm quite happy. Although my husband is always cheating. I am cheating too. Tit for tat, I haven't lost out, do you know? My husband is a bad man, the kind that's thoroughly bad. But I'm a bad woman, and bad women only like bad men. Chi-Chu heard my words, and his laughter drifted away in the sea breeze. When we returned to the parking lot, Chi-Chu transformed back into the polite driver. He opened the back door and invited me to get in. I sat in the back seat and heard him ask, "Miss Chiao, where to now?" I didn't speak, just slowly and provocatively took off my high heels, one by one. I hooked the heels on my fingers, bending them gently, and the heels made a muffled sound as they hit the bottom of the car. I sat back in place, unhurriedly peeling off my stockings from under my skirt and casually tossing them onto the seat. I knew he was watching in the rearview mirror, where all my movements were clearly reflected. His palm rested on the steering wheel, and the hand with the wedding ring trembled slightly. Almost imperceptibly. I crossed my legs nonchalantly, leaning comfortably against the seat, and casually said, "Home." The car slowly started moving, and along the way, I watched the scenery outside as it disappeared frame by frame in my view, with rows of streetlights rushing by. The old will pass, and the new will come. Life is not a novel, it will never end. When the car stopped in the garage, I gently leaned close to Chi-Chu's ear, letting my voice drift into his eardrum along with the scent of perfume, and I said, "My husband is not home tonight."